Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravindha Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikas Swami Nami. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nami. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, titled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy, Text 13. Pumsam ataha vividha karma bhihi advara adyaihi danena cha ugra tapasa paricharyaya cha आराधनम भगवतः तव सत्क्रिया अर्थः धर्मः अर्पितः कर्हिचित् म्रियते न यत्र पुंसामतो विविध कर्म बिरद्वराद्यैर् पुंसामतो विविध कर्म बिरद्वराध्यैर् दानेन चोग्र तपसा परिचर्यया च दानेन चोग्र तपसा परिचर्यया च आराधनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो आराधनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो धर्मोऽर्पितः कर्हिचित् म्रियते न यत्र धर्मोऽर्पितः धर्मोऽर्पितः कर्हिचित् म्रियते न यत्र पुंसामतो विविध कर्म बिरद्वराद्यैर् दानेन चोग्र तपसा परिचर्यया च आराधनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो धर्मोऽर्पितः कर्हिचित् म्रियते न यत्र पुंसामतो विविध कर्म बिरद्वराद्यैर् दानेन चोग्र तपसा परिचर्यया च आराधनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो धर्मोऽर्पितः कर्हिचित् म्रियते न यत्र Please repeat. पुंसामतो विविध कर्म बिरद्वराद्यैर् चोग्र तपसा परिचर्यया च आराधनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो पुंसामतो विविध कर्म बिरद्वराद्यैर् दानेन चोग्र तपसा परिचर्यया च धनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो कर्मोऽर्पितः कर्हिचित् म्रियते न यत्र बिरद्वराद्यैर् चोग्र तपसा परिचर्यया च आराधनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो Dharmorpita karhi chit mriyate na yatra. Samato vividha karma biradvaradyair. Jnanena chograta basa paricharyaya cha. Tastava satkriyartho. Dharmor karhichit mriyatena yatra. Pumsamatho vividha karma biradvaradyair. Chograta pasa paricharyaya cha. Bhavatastava satkriyartho. No, sorry. Karhichit mriyate na yatra. Matajis. Pumsamatho vividha karma biradvaradyair. Dhanena chodra tapasa paricharyaya cha. Aradhanam bhagavatas satsyaryaya. Dharmorpita karishit mriyate yatra. Pumsamatho vividha karma biradvaradyair. Dhanena chogra tapasa paricharyaya cha. Dhanam bhagavatastava satkriyartho. Dharmorpita karhichit mriyatena yatra. Pumsam, of the people. Ataha, therefore, vividha karma bihi, by various fruitive activities. Advara adyaihi, by performance of Vedic rituals. Dhanena, by charities. Cha, and ugra, very hard. Tapasa, austerity. Paricharyaya, by transcendental service. Cha, also. Aradhanam, worship. Bhagavataha, of the personality of Godhead. Tava, your. Satkriya arthaha, simply for pleasing your lordship. Dharmaha, religion. Arpitaha, so offered. Karihichit, at any time. Mriyate, vanquishes. Na, never. Yatra, there. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. But the pious activities of the people, such as performance of Vedic rituals, charity, austere penances, and transcendental service performed with a view to worship you and satisfy you by offering you the fruit of results, are also beneficial. Such acts of religion never go in vain. Purport. Absolute devotional service conducted in 9 different spiritual activities, hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, praying, etc., does not always appeal to people with a pompous nature. They are more attracted by the Vedic superficial rituals and other costly performances of social religious shows. But the process, according to the Vedic injunctions, is that the fruit of all pious activities should be offered to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 9:27, the Lord demands that whatever one may do in one's daily activities, such as worship, sacrifice, and offering charity, all the results should be offered to Him only. This offering of the results of pious acts unto the Supreme Lord is a sign of devotional service to the Lord and is of permanent value, whereas enjoying the same results for oneself is temporary. Anything done on account of the Lord is a permanent asset and accumulates in the form of unseen piety for gradual promotion to the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. These undetected pious activities will one day result in full-fledged devotional behavior by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, any pious act done on account of the Supreme Lord is also recommended here for those who are not pure devotees. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyutav Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitha Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Pumsamato Vividha Karma Biradvaradhyair Danena Chogra Tapasa Paricharyaya Aradhanam Bhagavatas Tavasat Kriyartho Dharmorpita Karhichit Mriyatena Yatra. But the pious activities of the people, such as performance of Vedic rituals, charity, austere penances, and transcendental service, performed with a view to worship you and satisfy you by offering you the fruitive results, are also beneficial. Such acts of religion never go in vain. So, here, Lord Brahma, in this verse, concludes the glorification of the process of devotional service and of the devotees of the Lord. So, beginning from his prayer, basically, he begins his prayer off by offering obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, and then from text number 5, he starts to talk about devotional service and people who are attracted to devotional service and those who are not attracted to devotional service. You can see text number 5 says, O my Lord, persons who smell the aroma of your lotus feet carried by the air of Vedic sound through the holes of the ear accept your devotional service. For them you are never separated from the lotus of their heart. So he's glorifying pure devotees here. Then in the next verse he talks about those who are unfortunate enough, who are unfortunate to not be attracted by devotional service. Text number 6, O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia. And they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. He continues in text 7 to talk about non-devotees who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate, and they are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. Text 8, same continuation of the same theme. O great actor, my Lord, all these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion, and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger. I take pity on them, and I am very much aggrieved for them. Again, continuing the same theme of the misery of material existence and the futility of being attached to sense gratification. Text 9, O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet, as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries being influenced by your external energy. Then the activities of such persons. Text 10. Such non-devotees engage their senses in very troublesome extensive work. They suffer insomnia at night because their intelligence constantly breaks their sleep with various mental speculations. They are frustrated in all their various plans by supernatural power. Even great sages, if they are against your transcendental topics, must rotate in this material world. So, you can see here that Brahma is criticizing. He's lamenting about the state of the non-devotees and commenting about the nature. Is very revealing. We've already discussed those verses. And then in the next verse, he once again glorifies the devotees like he did in text number 5. So text number 11, O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the years by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. So then, Lord Brahma in text number 12 criticizes those who have come to Krishna consciousness in some way, shape or form, come to know of the Supreme Lord, but instead are trying to have best of both worlds. They're trying to enjoy sense gratification and also trying to be some religious, somewhat Krishna conscious or something, some attraction is there. Some performance is there. So he criticizes, he said, okay, non-devotees are one thing. Now these people, look at them. They also cannot satisfy you. So that's text number 12, which was discussed yesterday. My Lord, you are not very satisfied by the worship of the demigods who arrange for your worship very pompously with various paraphernalia, but who are full of material hankerings. You are situated in everyone's heart as the super soul, just to show your causeless mercy. And you are the eternal well-wisher, but you are unavailable for the non-devotee. So basically, those who are pseudo-devotees, they're practically like non-devotees. That's the message of this verse. But then, in text 13, he clarifies it. He says, okay, I will admit there is some benefit to that. That's today's verse. He criticizes in the previous verse, he criticizes what he actually permits in text 13. Text 12, he is criticizing the very activity that he is permitting in text 13, because that is the science of devotional service, that there is some benefit, some connection with Krishna. So text 13, but the pious activities of the people, such as performance of Vedic rituals, that's exactly what he criticized in the previous verse. Charity, austere penances, and transcendental service performed with a view to worship you and satisfy you by offering the fruit of results are also beneficial. Such acts of religion never go in vain. So, even though these materialistic devotees, like the demigods, who are very much attached to sense enjoyment, but they recognize the supremacy of the Supreme Lord and they worship the Supreme Lord in that spirit, there is still some benefit in doing that. And that forms the subject matter of this particular verse, that Prabhupada begins the purport by saying that the 9 types of devotional service are not attractive to non-devotees. They don't appeal to people with a pompous nature. They are more attracted by the Vedic superficial rituals and other costly performances of social religious shows. This is reality that we face. That in spite of preaching the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, we still see that there are, what do people like? They still like this kind of big show. They like this. What if people don't see, one can celebrate. If you want to celebrate, for instance, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he would celebrate. How would he celebrate? He chant. Today we are going to have a festival. What is the festival? We simply chant. It is a festival. It's actually a festival. And we can understand that philosophically. But how much would we actually feel it is a festival? How can we convince people? It doesn't feel like. So there is an element, and this is where Varnashrama Dharma comes in, is that there is recognizing the conditioned soul's nature to enjoy sense gratification, there is a process by which that sense gratification is dovetailed into Krishna consciousness and thereby purified. Because if they don't do that, they glide down the hellish species. Therefore, this has to be done. And it's a difficult thing to admit, but that's what happens. So this is how Krishna begins. Even in Bhagavad Gita, you can go to chapter 9, text 20. So what happens before those verses? Krishna is basically talking about how he is the Supreme Lord. He says everything comes from him, right? Tapamyaham aham varsham nigrinami utsujami sa amritam chaiva mrityuscha sadasachaham Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, I give heat, I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality, I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. And the previous verses are also like this. He is the Supreme Lord. He is in control. Everything comes from him. So text number 20, Krishna says, Traividyamam somapah putapapa yajñe ishtva swargatim prartayante te punyam asadya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly, purified of sinful reactions. They take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delight. So these are people who study the Vedas, but they still have not understood the Supreme Lord. They don't even understand that Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They don't understand the position of Sriman Narayana. So therefore, they ignore Krishna, but they're followers of the Vedas. So they go to the heavenly planet. So then, text 21, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So this is a difference to what Brahma is speaking of here. There is a difference. You have Vedic followers who have not recognized the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, but they are followers of the Vedas. So in some indirect way, they have recognized Krishna's supremacy. But what do they achieve? What is the result? Krishna is stating here. Repeated birth and death. Simply repeated birth and death. What is that? Gatagatam kama kama labhante. That's all they achieve. So that is decried. That is completely decried. So this is the difference between Varnashrama and Daivi Varnashrama. In Daiva Varnashrama, Krishna is center. So you'll see that. That's the subject matter of this. That's why even Prabhupada in this purport, he refers to 927, the Bhagavatam purport that we read. So text 22, very famous verse. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. But those who worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. So this is referring to pure devotees. Krishna speaks of pure devotees. He says, these are devotees. They always think of me. For them, I take care of everything. Meaning, in the previous verse, he's saying, Gatagatam kama kama labhante. That does not apply to these people. In 927, I will carry them. They are not carried by their lusty desires, and they are not going to transmigrate in the cycle of birth and death. I will carry. I will personally take charge of them. Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. Kshema, I will give them the best result. What is the best result? Krishna's lotus feet. He gives his own lotus feet to them. A shelter of his lotus feet. So text 23. So then Krishna, now he introduces Daiva Varnashrama. Text 23. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. These people are thinking all these demigods are one, I am also one. Everything comes from Brahman, all this kind of ridiculous conceptions. So, Krishna, no, they worship me only, but they're doing so in an indirect way, they're doing it in an inappropriate way. So, text 24. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhoktacha prabhurevacha natumam abhijananti tatvenatascha vantite. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. That Gadagatam kama kama labhante, Krishna is making the point, you can worship demigods and you may think that they will give you shelter, but you are not prevented from falling down. There is no guarantee that you will not fall down. You can take shelter of Shiva, you can take shelter of Durga, you can take shelter of Ganesh, You can take shelter of all these powerful demigods, and they may seem very powerful. But if you have not understood my actual nature, if you have not understood that I am actually the creator, the actual enjoyer, the enjoyer of all the sacrifices, the master of everyone, then you will fall down. You will fall down. So, and that's the nature. Krishna does not say they may fall down. He doesn't say, not. He says, those who do not recognize my nature fall down. Period. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So that's how heavy that is. So Krishna is making that point. So don't follow this Asura Varnashram. This Asura Varnashram that does not recognize my supremacy is useless. You will fall down in that. It may seem you are protected by your Brahminical qualities, you have got Kshatriya valor, and you are performing all these sacrifices, and the Vaishyas are very prosperous, and the demigods are reciprocating, and but everything will collapse. Everything will collapse. And that's all. So Ravana's kingdom seems everything wonderful, everything is very nice, very fun. Ravana was worshipping Shiva. But it will collapse, everything will fall down, the whole city got burnt. So, text 25. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitivrataha bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti mad yajinopi mam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors will go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So, connect these things. The point is, Krishna is saying that those who are devotees of the other demigods, they're actually worshipping me, but they're doing so in the wrong way. They're doing it indirectly. And if you do like that, you will actually fall down. And then Krishna is saying, if you worship like that, where will you go? You will go to the planets of the demigods, you'll go to the planets of the ancestors, you'll go to the planets of the ghosts and spirits, and you will fall down. Because he's already said that. Gatagatam kama kama labhante. But prior to that, in 22, he's saying, those who worship me, I protect them. They will not fall down. Because my nature is that nature where I don't fall down. Krishna is not, he doesn't fall down. He is not subject to falling down. And those who get shelter of Krishna will also not fall down. Therefore, in this verse, Krishna is saying, those who worship me will live with me, which means what? I don't fall down, therefore they also don't fall down. So that's the import of this verse. Now, text 26. Then Krishna says, again coming to Daiva Varnashram. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahatam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it. Meaning I don't need all this pompous worship. I need devotion. I recognize my supreme position. Understand me as the supreme benefactor and the well-wisher, the friend of all living entities, and the source of everything in this world, including our own existence, and show me some love. That's all Krishna is asking. I don't want all this pompous worship. Then Krishna says, oh, but what am I supposed to do? I have all these. Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yat juhosi dadasi, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushvama darpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Now, Krishna is saying, whatever you eat, this is a very interesting point, right? Yad ashnasi, whatever you eat. Oh, but I eat meat. No, you cannot do that. You see, previous verse I already qualified what you can offer to me. You can offer me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, some water, I will take that. You cannot offer. So Krishna is making the point that yes, you can offer your activities, and there you can offer me the fruits of your activities, of all these different activities, whatever you do, whatever you eat, you can offer all of these things, but you must learn the science of dovetailing it. You must learn what is offerable and what is not offerable. And you offer that which is actually offerable. And in this way, yes, you may be attached to doing it, because that's the whole point. Whatever you do means you are attached to doing it. Whatever you eat means you are attached to eating. Whatever you offer, you are attached. Whatever you give away, meaning like whatever charity one gives, one is attached. Whatever austerities means one is attached. It's okay. You can offer that to me. Just qualify it. Make it offerable. So that is the position. And then Krishna says in text 28, Shubha Shubha Phalaireva Mokshase Karma Bandhanaihi Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mam Upaishyasi. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results with your mind fixed on me. In this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So in this way, you won't fall down. You won't be subject to birth and death. In this way, you can actually come to me. So this is the principle of Daiva Varnashram. And Srila Prabhupada actually elaborates this very nicely in the Ishopanishad. Mantra 1, there's a couple of paragraphs I'm going to read from 3 mantras. Mantra 1, 2 and 3. So, let's see, you put mantra 1. No, not invocation. Mantra 1. Ishavashyam idam sarvam. Okay, you're going to go towards the end of the purport where there's a paragraph that begins, it is wrong, however, to think that simply. Go further down.
It's a long purport.
Go up. Yeah. Okay. So, there is a line that begins, animals do not have developed consciousness by which to recognize the Lord. You see that? Yeah, okay. But a human being is sufficiently intelligent to take lessons from the Vedic literature and thereby know how the laws of nature are working and derive profit out of such knowledge. If a man neglects the instructions of the Vedic literature, his life becomes very risky. That's an important line to note. If a man neglects the instructions of Vedic literature, his life becomes very risky. So as devotees, you have to have respect for Vedic literature. You cannot say, oh, I don't care for what it said. If it is said, oh, Prabhuji is quoting, Bhagavatam says this, Bhagavad Gita says this, Prabhupada is saying this in the purport, I don't care. You cannot live life like that. We have to recognize the authority of the Vedas. You have to recognize the authority of Vedic literature. And Prabhupada says his life becomes very risky. A human being is therefore required to recognize the authority of the Supreme Lord and become his devotee. He must offer everything for the Lord's service and partake only of the remnants of food offered to the Lord. This will enable him to discharge his duty properly. So, that's an important point to note there. Now going to mantra 2. We're going to the middle of the purport there. And there's a paragraph that begins, factually no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. Okay, great. A little further down in that paragraph, a conditioned soul is accustomed to working for his sense gratification, for his own selfish interest, immediate or extended. An ordinary man works for his own sense enjoyment, and when this principle of sense enjoyment is extended to include his society, nation, or humanity in general, it assumes various attractive names such as altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, and humanitarianism. These isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhana, karmic bondage, but the Vedic instruction of Sri Ishopanishad is that if one actually wants to live for any of the above isms, he should make them God-centered. There is no harm in becoming a family man, or an altruist, a socialist, a communist, a nationalist, or a humanitarian, provided that one executes his activities in relation with Ishavasya, the God-centered conception. So, there is criticism in Vedic literature for becoming a family man. There is criticism in Vedic literature for becoming an altruist, socialist, communist, nationalist, humanitarian as all being crazy ideas of the conditioned soul, completely centered around the bodily concept of life. Yet, you will find these words also in Srila Prabhupada's purport. There is no harm in becoming a family man, if one executes his activities in relation with Ishavasya, the God-centered conception. Means what? Means that people are attached. They're going to become family people. They're going to become altruists. They're going to become, and people, they refuse to give up sense of nationalism. We were speaking with Maharaj yesterday, and Maharaj was relating how this Ukraine-Russia war, it splits even the devotional community, because there are devotees in Ukraine who are upset that the ISKCON leadership is not speaking against the aggressor Russians. But then the Russian leadership says they have to follow the Russian government. And so they're completely in line with the Russian government to the extent that there are certain leaders who are encouraging Russian devotees to go and fight in the war with Ukraine. But then the Ukrainians Yatra has lost about 50 devotees who have died in the war. Our devotional society is not even so many people, and you lose 50 people. That's a lot of devotees. So these are very polarizing things. So why? Because it's difficult again. Because the Ukrainians feel Ukrainian, the Russians feel Russian. So what to do? But the point is, and Maharaj was saying that actually it would have been better in the beginning if leadership had decided we are not going to take sides in this battle. We cannot take sides. Even in the name of preaching, you cannot take sides. It's better that you don't take sides. So but that's the point, because Ishavashi, you have to have a God-centered conception. And it's hard. Just making the point about how hard it is to give up the sense. You might think, nationalists, I don't feel so national. Well, when things go south, then you may realize. And that's it. When everything is nice, we don't really think about such things. But I know how so many Indian devotees feel really Indian about being Indian, and feel very proud about the direction of the politics in India. It's when you say B is for Bharatiya Janata Party, it really says something, anyways. So the thing is that it's difficult to give up these conceptions. But you will see that Srila Prabhupada also, he used these conceptions. He says, what is the use of being Americans if you cannot do something wonderful for Krishna or Lord Chaitanya? What is the use of being American? You're not Americans. You're not Americans. We're not Indians. But why Prabhupada is saying that? Because there is a dovetail aspect. There is an aspect of dovetailing. And this is extremely important to the understanding. This is extremely important to the establishment of Daiva Varnashram. Otherwise, you get extremisms that people can't follow. What do you get? What are the extremes you get? You get one extreme where you have these fanatical renunciants who all they will do is criticize everybody who's getting married, anything that has to do with even the word farm, or anything that has to do with something like that as being like total Maya. You're not in preaching. You're not directly preaching. You're digging some soil. This guy is definitely this lost case. This is not like, okay, Prabhu, you take some prasadam, Here's some prasadam. May Krishna bless you. Wow. Some kind of like, feeling. And then, privately we got our little clique here where we are discussing like the real stuff, because those sissies can't handle it, and like that. So you got that category, which what generally ends up happening is many of these Puritans don't remain Puritans, because it's not an Ishavasya concept of it's not the way how Prabhupada looks at it. It's not the way how Brahma after criticizing is clarifying here. Oh wait, actually there is some benefit there. He's clarifying his statement, because that's important. There does need to be recognition. Because why? Krishna is in Chaturvarna Maya system. So what? Krishna created it for all these, for people to just, no, Krishna has a plan, he has a system. So yes, there is criticism of these things in Vedic culture, in the Vedic scriptures. But the same Vedic scriptures, the same Bhagavatam that says, what is that? That Pumshastriya mituni bhavametam tayoraho hriday granti mahu ato griha kshetra sutapta vittair. What is this here? What is being talking over here? Vedic rituals, charity, austere penances. This is all griha sutta, all this kind of things. This is what it is. So one part of the Bhagavatam is saying, it's okay. there is some benefit here. It will never go in vain. There is some benefit. The other part of the Bhagavatam is saying this is completely, no, this is complete bondage. It leads to hellish life. Because both have to be understood. Both aspects have to be understood. Vidyam cha yes tadvedo bhayam saha avidyayam mrityu tirtva vidyayam mritam ashnute. One who cannot understand whether you are a brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, this principle of Ishopanishad does not change. It doesn't change. It is not that as a brahmachari I will not hear how these things, yes, there is some benefit to this. It is possible. It is possible. As these things are said. That yes, if one becomes a family man in activities in relation with Ishavasya, it is possible. But also, the other aspect, that family life is like a big dark well. Once you jump into that, God knows when you will come out of it. So yes, that is also there. And both are true. So, both have to be, because both have to be understood. And in the guidance, under the guidance of those who are like the spiritual master and the representatives of the spiritual master and Vaishnavas, under their guidance, one has to traverse both Vidya and Avidya. And in that way one can become liberated. Otherwise there is no question of liberation. The other aspect is the grahasthas. Yeah, everybody get married. They become the extreme. Actually what happens is many times it's this first category, when they can't fulfill, when they can't be that ideal brahmachari that they idealized and idolized for so long, when then they go to the other extreme. They become this other extreme where I was this fanatical brahmachari like you. I also know. Yeah, you continue talking this crap and you will also become like me. And what is becoming like me is going to complete becoming sense enjoyer. Hey, it's okay, Prabhu. I also, one time I thought I'll only read Bhagavad Gita. Now I also watch some movies. It's okay. It's okay. So they go to the other extreme. So the other extreme is just completely losing any idea of Krishna consciousness. It's just completely watered down. Brahma is not referring to either of those here. He is not referring to either of those. This is very important to understand. Brahma is referring to those devotees who have recognized the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, but yes, who recognize they still have some material desires, they are not able to completely give it up. And yes, they also recognize, it is important for them also to recognize that in the position that they are in, they are not going to go back to Godhead. But at least they recognize that, and they are conscious enough not to transgress the laws of the Supreme Lord and to conduct their devotional life in a manner that they don't accrue sins, and that they are careful enough to offer their activities, the fruits of their labor at Krishna's lotus feet in a manner that is acceptable to Krishna. They lead their lives in such a way that they are able to perform these kind of things. They are able to perform Vedic rituals, charity, austere penances and transcendental service. They are able to perform this. Therefore, Krishna is also, he is protector of the demigods. He is not very satisfied with them because Krishna is satisfied with his pure devotees. And that we should all also understand. Yes, those who are pure devotees, those who are not interested in all of these things, Krishna is very dear to them. But at least we should mold our life. If we cannot be on that platform, at least we should mold our life in a manner that we can gain the association of such kind of people and we can serve them. And this is how Daiva Varnashrama is constituted. I was discussing with Jitha Girish Prabhu the other day. I said, okay, when we grow rice on the farm, birds are going to come and attack it, because we saw that in Nandagram also. Not necessarily rice, but And so I asked ChatGPT, I asked Claude and whatever. I said, so how are you going to deal with this? And then it was like, you can get your community members together and have watch sessions where you can scare these things away in the morning. And that reminded me of what we saw in Nandagram. I was like, heck no. This is because in Nandagram, we had these devotees in the morning and evening, and they would like clang these like, and all these like make these sounds and clang these pots and pans, and I was like, we are not going to get to be able to do this in the West. I cannot think how we can maintain our sanity by doing this. It's intense. It's about 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening, and devotees were telling me in Nandagram how, there are certain devotees there who just gave up on doing it. They said, no, forget about it. Let the birds eat everything because I can't deal with this.
Out there with the umbrella, just sitting in a stand.
Yeah. And you can't really read or do anything at that time because you have to keep looking for these birds. And these birds, they're very expert. They just swoop in like. So then, the solution is you have to train some dogs. And then you train the dogs, and they run around, barking, and then you have to. But then, we were discussing there's dogs. You have to maintain the dogs. You have to give the dogs treats, and then how do you facilitate it? So then, it reminded me of that's how Vedic culture is so perfect, because in Vedic culture you have a caste of people who have these kind of animals, and they go around doing this. They train the animals. They also probably meat eaters. Okay, they train the animals, and then you give them, and then you barter. You give them something, and then they go around running around, with their, or they don't do anything. They just sleep on the field while their dog runs around, does all the job. And they go sleep because they know how they've trained the dog, and they eat little meat. They feed the dog some meat. But this is Vedic culture. So you don't incur the karma, and they're participating. But then the grains that are being grown is being grown for the service of the Supreme Lord, and these people are taught to respect also, and they're respected for their service. This is Daiva Varnashram. They're respected. I understand if I don't have the help of this person, who from an external perspective is an untouchable. He's Muchi. He's with the dog all the time. He eats meat. He doesn't everybody in Vedic culture bathes at least once a day. But even such kind of people. But still, they got the dogs all over them and everything. But one thing to note, even such kind of people don't bring the dog into their little house. They don't. They actually keep the dog outside. The dog is always outside. The pets don't come inside the house. But you have these people, so they recognize their position. Yeah, I'm unclean. I shouldn't go to the temple in this situation because I'm unclean. I have these dogs all running over me. So I can't enter into the temple. But their service is appreciated. And they're like that, these people, they're attached. Their conscious intelligence is not so sharp. So they may never come to the platform of okay, I'm going to sit through every single Bhagavatam class every day, and I'm going to read, 2 hours of Shastra every day. Forget it. They're not going to do that. But they learn to recognize sadhus. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, once he was walking on a field, a farmer comes, it's my great good fortune that you have stepped on my land. That farmer is almost 100%, he was a meat eater. Fish eater. He was in Jew. Huh? He was in the Jew way. Fish. Probably, fish eater, maybe. Very likely, let's say very likely. Or at least he wasn't an initiated devotee chanting 16 rounds. But he was able to recognize, sadhu has come, it's my good fortune. So that's the point. They recognize that. And when they come to the temple, they come clean. They come dressed. They know, when I come to the temple, I don't come like I'm dressed. There's some conception. But by this way, they become favorable to the devotees. They become favorable to Krishna. And these people who otherwise these kind of people, they'll be born as animals, right? Yeah. But now they won't. They would have gotten prasadam, they would have gotten association of devotees. In some rare cases, some of them may actually become devotees, full-on devotees even. In some rare cases. But even if not, at least they are benefited. So this is that non-envious cooperation where there is a sense, yes, this person is unclean compared to a brahmana, and this person understands that he shouldn't touch the brahmana who's on his way, pujari service at the temple. He understands, he's clean, I should stay out of his way. But then you see how when the conception of Isha Vasya is lost, When the Vaishnava conception, when the conception that this is all being done for Krishna's pleasure is lost, then you can understand how the Brahmana becomes puffed up. Hey, shoo, get out of the way. Get out of the way, you untouchable. You low-class fellow. And then, becoming puffed up as a Brahmana and like this. So there is that risk of Daiva Varnashrama becoming, some kind of Asura or worse than Asura Varnashram. That risk is there. And therefore, Vidyamcha, yes, both have to be understood simultaneously. Therefore, discussion is there about how these things, altruism, socialism, nationalism, all nonsense, how family life is also a deep dark well, so that the proper conception is not lost. Otherwise, everything will become degraded. Both have to be discussed. And this also has to be discussed, that there is benefit. We have to, so simultaneously we recognize the risk and we are also facilitating it to some extent. So there has to be, that balance has to come by proper discussion, which mainly revolves around the Brahmanas. And therefore devotees have to read Srila Prabhupada's books, understand these books very well. Otherwise we cannot preach properly and we will not have a proper understanding, because as Prabhupada described, the Krishna consciousness movement consists of Brahmanas, primarily Brahminical. And so the Brahmanas lose their sense, everything will collapse. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
So, one thing interesting, I was reading in Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu's commentary on the Ramayana that he was quoting, and this in the section where Trishanku, he's cursed to become a Chandala by Vashishta's 100 sons. In that, he makes an important point. There's something known as a Jati Brahmana, and there's something known as a Karma Brahmana. So Jati Brahmanas are those who are born in the family of Brahmanas, but a Karma Brahmana is a one who's actually performing the
qualified himself.
Yeah, he's performing the activities of a Brahmana, and that's what actually makes one a Brahmana. He was making that point in regards to this Daivarnashram thing, and we've seen this point time and again that many Puritans, we've seen, when they get off their platform of artificial renunciation, it's just they go straight down.
It's rock bottom.
It's literally rock bottom. I mean, the worse than the karmis. Worse than what you see in the music festivals. Yeah. It's really terrible. We've met people who've just gone. They're worse than what you'd see anywhere.
This is why in Daiva Varnashrama, one cannot expect renunciants to have. See, there is some level, there is proper segregation of sexes and things like that. But overall, the environment, you will see, is highly conducive to become a family man. Right? It's designed like that. It's highly conducive to be a family man. And in that sense, it can seem that the current position where we are at, for instance, right, this is more favorable for being brahmacharis. Definitely, there is no doubt about it. But a brahmachari who is a brahmachari by circumstance is a brahmachari in name only. And the Vedic culture is designed in such a way that it's conducive for becoming like this, because you don't want false renunciates in society. These false renunciants will do far greater danger than a pious householder. A pious householder is nothing. I mean, it's nothing compared to this false renunciant. He sets fire in society, destroys everything. You get unwanted progeny, women are polluted, all kinds of nonsense is going on in the name of devotional service. So to prevent that, there is a bit of a... but then, those who are real renunciants, they will still be renunciants because they recognize, because the knowledge doesn't change. But there is a bit of a... You will see, traditionally you will notice There's
a lot of push.
There's
Not
push.
a bit, there's a lot.
There's push.
There's a lot of-
Because there's push, but not force.
Yeah.
There's little difference between pushing and forcing. Nobody will force anyone to become a grahastha. But there is push.
There's encouragement.
There is push.
Right.
And one who is able to push against that
Yeah.
pushing,
I mean,
you're qualified.
you culturally.
So you're qualified.
Because traditionally, once a child graduates from the Gurukul, he's given two options. He's taken to one part where he's shown to the edge of the village. He's shown the forest. You can either enter the forest, and he's shown the village. You can go to the village. And then those who are, I'm going to the village, or I'm going to the
Well,
forest.
the village
whatever.
looks much better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could. And depends on how many books you read. Anyway, so also we've seen this, that especially the Puritans, what we've seen is that they're very like this, and then what ends up happening is they start criticizing devotees wearing dhotis, devotees,
Yeah.
and it just degrades to such a low level that one person openly told us, "I'm gambling for Krishna." It's crazy. What the hell is wrong with you? But if we remember them as a brahmachari, I mean, they were so inspiring, they were so amazing. But this overall, farming fool is, putting, what is he doing, digging the earth? What a fool. The minute they think like that, that's when their downfalls are. I remember they made a meme and they sent it to me. Then, who's a Kanishtadhikari who wears a dhoti like this? A little more fancy dhoti, you're a Madhyamadhikari. If you're the most fancy one with the turban, then you're Uttamadhikari. And they started, that's the joke. I was saying, that's your joke. That they became a joke. Now everyone is laughing at them. And one last point is, if we don't have the Varnashram, where are people going to fall back into? All right, you couldn't make it as a brahmachari, but here you go. You can live in a dharmic way. But they go from the platform of Krishna consciousness to the platform of dharma. It's very sad. And this small thing that when Indian brahmacharis or whatever, who get trained and are exported from India to America, or import, what's the right word? I'm sorry. Export?
Whatever.
Yeah. They come to America, and they think that they have to change all their cultural values to preach. They just become completely hopeless. For example, there was one person on a particular day who was feeling so merciful that he let one Mataji's dog inside the temple to take darshan of the deities. And that person is history now. But we can see what happens when they just take it so lightly, Prabhupada's instructions about Varnashram Dharma.
Yeah. Chanda?
Just had a question regard to the post that was made this morning. So you're speaking about accepting Vedic culture and understanding what is sinful, what is proper. And so in this book, it's mentioning how traditionally, and we were talking with Maharaj, and you were mentioning how traditionally, making this paneer, separating the milk, is considered sinful in Vedic culture, and is not.
My mom told me that. Yeah.
It's not offerable to. It seems pretty in different parts of India, also apart from Bengal, which is later, that it's not offerable to the deity. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada had it done, and Guru Maharaj mentioned they didn't have it when they were in his time, but it was later introduced in Australia. So how to progress with that?
Well, I mean, not just that. I mean, there's entire letters where Prabhupada talks about cheese.
Yeah.
And how to understand? Prabhupada said it can be offered, so it's being offered. But we also understand from Maharaj that at the same time, Srila Prabhupada did want us to establish Daiva Varnashram. He wanted us to go back to the traditional values. And so Prabhupada, you can understand these statements as Prabhupada trying to bring devotees to wanting to have milk products and emphasizing the milk products. And one of the milk products that's very much loved in the West is cheese. Mm-hmm. Even Guru Maharaj admitted that to us. He said, that was the first time I've heard.
That's the hardest thing to give up.
Yeah, Guru Maharaj said, cheese was the hardest thing for me to give up when I became a devotee. I never knew that, actually. Never knew that.
And then he said, actually, I think about it wasn't that hard.
It was that hard. But yeah, so he said that cheese was the hardest thing to give up as a devotee. But you can see Srila Prabhupada, he's trying to establish cow protection, and he wants to make the point that devotees should like milk, to take milk products, promote milk products. You can do so many things with all these milk products, and Prabhupada is saying cheese is one of them. So we can understand that Prabhupada is trying to bring devotees to one platform. To be honest, devotees have regressed and became vegans. It's like, it's the other way. Instead of thinking how to protect cows, they're thinking, what's the best way to do it? Forget milk altogether. This is what happens. It's completely wrong. You should be thinking how to protect cows. Prabhupada introduced it like that, in the sense, yes, you like cheese. We could get cheese. We could protect these cows. Worship cows. You become very dear to Krishna. Krishna wants this. You can't be a Vaishnava if you don't protect cows. So, but then devotees regress, went to the other extreme. So we can understand these statements like that. But at the same time, you don't see, like you said, that we can't find in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, paneer. I was curious, but...
Even rasgulla, that's hard to make.
Prabhupada cooked a dish which he called Meat Eater's
Yeah,
Delight.
Meat Eater's Delight,
Which
yeah.
is, it's paneer, eggplant, and potatoes. It's a dry sabji.
Whoa, there's a lot of spice in it.
A lot of spices, yeah.
It's extremely spicy.
Yeah, I was trying to find a reference where Prabhupada said something along these lines, but I couldn't. But anyways, the idea is that it's in a...
It's in the letter.
Oh, okay.
It'll help people get over eating meat.
Yeah, paneer will replace the
The
tongue's urge
taste
for
of
eating
meat. Yeah, see.
So that's like a
also there.
practical reason why paneer is recommended.
Urad dal is there, but urad dal is traditional though. Yeah.
You read this part of the purport where Srila Prabhupada was saying, if one doesn't follow the injunctions of the Vedas, then their life
becomes very risky.
risky. So I was wondering, because we see there's also parts where he explains that a human being should follow like the Manu Samhita, and in there's so many instructions.
Yeah.
Even like for brahmacharis, there's so many specific things like.
Brahmachari, there's all kinds of things in there.
Yeah, for everyone, but I was thinking specifically about, I've read one part about brahmacharis, and it was saying like, go to sleep after the guru, rise before the guru, even something about not eating sweets. It's like, there's so that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So I'm wondering, like, how do you know which things to actually follow, and why some things are followed and some things aren't?
One has to follow in the footsteps of the acharyas. That's a general answer.
There you go.
Because there are various Vedic literatures, but they all have grades of importance. And you'll see that Prabhupada is referring to Manu Samhita, but not as much. And he refers to certain parts of Manu Samhita because there are certain things in Manu Samhita that if we were to implement today, wouldn't work for devotional service. It would just become a hindrance in devotional service. So these scriptures is, the general understanding. Scriptures that are influenced by the three modes of material nature, right? Which doesn't refer to Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Because this is Puranam Amalam. But the texts there are certain sections that are not to be, there are certain sections that are less important than others, and they have to be neglected. So, how they are neglected, how the Shastra is processed, what sections of it are applied and what sections of it are not, one has to follow in the footsteps of the predecessor acharyas. It requires research. It requires also an understanding of the mood and mission of the acharyas. This is very important. Otherwise you can't. And how would you understand that? That you will get by reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. These are our cardinal books. Yes.
Prabhu, I was thinking recently that it seems like Prabhupada's mandate to establish Davivarna Ashram is almost like Prabhupada's order to chant 64 rounds. Like you gave this example how we keep digressing. It's like, if you can't protect cows, okay, like I'll just become a vegan, you know? It's like Prabhupada's, it seems like it's such a tall order, but, you know. But it's not impossible, you know. Prabhupada said chant 64 rounds, you know, but he had to like, okay, like we'll just do 16, you know.
I mean, but Prabhupada didn't compromise on this. That's the difference. Okay. Anything else from the men? No. Matajis? No. All right. Okay. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.